Hello everyone, and welcome to another installment of Bathroom Brews. In this week's deck tech, I wanted to build around one of my favorite cards from Murders at Karlov Manor, Insidious Roots. As a lifelong Golgari lover, this enchantment is exactly what I want in a deck. It's a cheap payoff for moving creatures in and out of the graveyard that provides mana and bodies. I originally was just going to put it into my Tormod deck, but instead I wanted to lean into the plant theme of the card, and as it turns out, there are 0 legendary plant creatures. So I started flipping through my binder for some inspiration, as one does, and that's when I saw it. The perfect commander to build around this card, Tayam Luminous Enigma. She wants creatures with counters, can easily move creatures in and out of the graveyard, and has great art. While she isn't a plant, she is holding a tree, so that's good enough for me. With my commander in one hand and a random uncommon enchantment in the other, it was time to get brewing, or should I say gardening. Some quick housekeeping before we get into the rest of the video. If you want more deck techs like this, give the video a like and let me know in the comments what deck you want to see next. Also, consider to sign up to be a channel member. You get some awesome perks for as low as $1.99 a month. Okay, with all the shilling out of the way, let's get into it. As is tradition, let's kick things off with Ramp. There are more plant mana dorks than I expected when starting this brew. We have Elysian Caryatid, Sylvan Caryatid, Utopia Tree, Fine Trestles, and Wall of Roots. We also have Beanstalk Worm, Topiary Stomper, and Rampant Rejuvenator to put actual lands into play. Now, to fuel Tayam's ability, we need to have counters on our creatures. Some creatures put counters on themselves, such as Carrion Feeder, Vinelasher Kudzu, Bloodbriar, Bloodline Pretender, Photohydra, and Vulturous Zombie. Their only purpose is to help fuel Tayam's ability. Next up are the plants with Scavenge. We have Slitherhead and Dredge Mangler. And finally, we want ways to put counters on all of our creatures. So Feldar Retreat, Retreat to Kazandu, and of course Insidious Roots are all-stars in the deck. But the best is Avenger of Zendikar. Not only does it give us a ton of plants, but whenever a land enters our battlefield, all of our plants also get a counter. If you want to add Dryad Arbor to the deck, you can trigger Roots and Avenger of Zendikar at the same time. Unlike some other popular creature types such as vampires or humans, there isn't a critical mass of playable plants. And while I could just gem every plant into a deck and call it a day, I still wanted the deck to be playable. So we have to fill out some spots with these fake plants, also known as changelings. We have Realm Walker to let us cast plants from the top of our deck. Mirror Entity is one of the backup win conditions in the deck, letting us turn all of our weak plants into massive threats. And then Graveshifter to let us return a creature from our graveyard to our hand, which also triggers Roots. Now, while Tayam's ability does mill us, I wanted to include more ways to fill up our graveyard than just with her ability. Ideally, we'd have some creatures to do this, but Grizzly Salvage and Grapple with the Past are staples in all graveyard decks for a reason. I also added the newish Tyvar Jubilant Brawler, which is repeatable mill and recurs cheap creatures, and there's a static ability that lets our creatures activate abilities as though they had haste, which means with this and Roots in play, we can tap all of our plant tokens right away for mana. As I mentioned earlier, I picked Tayam for her ability to move creatures in and out of the graveyard, but we don't want to be reliant on our commander for the deck to function. Dredge is great here because it mills us and returns the card, in this case, Greater Moss Dog, to our hand. We can also exile creatures from the yard to trigger Roots and the other payoffs, which I'll get to shortly. Woodwraith Strangler is free and repeatable way to exile creatures from our graveyard, and Creekwood Ghoul is Graveyard Hate, which we can also target ourselves with. When I build a deck around a single card, I try to find other cards that have a similar effect, and what's better than Chalk Outline and Soul Innervation from the same set. Both these enchantments are great payoffs for any card leaving our graveyard, not just creatures. Soul Innervation is a win condition, and Chalk Outline provides great value. Of course, we have Format All-Star Sir Conrad the Grim. Unlike the enchantments, Conrad checks whenever each creature leaves the graveyard, not one or more, and not just ours. So, if you exile 30 creatures, you can hit each opponent for 30 damage. Speaking of dealing a ton of damage, let's talk the win conditions. So the primary way we're going to win with this deck is combo. The most notable is Sir Conrad and Living Death. So I guess this is more of a synergy, but we're going to call it a combo here. All you need is Sir Conrad in play, and then to cast Living Death. When Living Death exiles everyone's graveyards, Sir Conrad will be triggered for each creature that gets exiled, hopefully dealing enough damage to let you win the game. Next is a convoluted 3-card combo involving Tortured Existence, Tyvar Jubilant Brawler, and Insidious Roots. You also need a creature in your hand and in the graveyard, but that should be easy enough to do. All you need for this combo is to pay a black to swap a creature from your hand and your graveyard using Tortured Existence. This will trigger Roots, giving you a plant. Then, thanks to Tyvar's static ability, we can tap that new plant for black mana and repeat this process. This gives you infinite ETBs, counters, and cards leaving your graveyard. This, in conjunction with any drain effect listed above, or Sack Outlet and Bastion of Remembrance, will let you win the game. Worst case, you can try to combo right before your turn and untap with an army of plants. There aren't a ton of upgrades I'd really suggest you pick up for this deck, aside from improving the mana base. But if you're looking to improve the consistency of the deck, you could add the Gitrog monster, Life from the Loam, and Astronaut's Altar. Because we're milling so often, Gitrog quickly becomes a powerful draw engine, while Life from the Loam helps us fill our graveyard with Dredge, and we can return lands to our hand. And then finally, Astronaut's Altar gives us mana to use for Tayam's ability. So this, along with Tyvar and having Roots in play, means we can mill our entire deck. This is great because our combo pieces are all 3 mana or less, for the most part, so we can recur them with Tayam's ability, and then win the game from there. And with that, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my Fallout tier list shown on screen here, or if you want to see a fun Xur cycling deck, you can also check that video out. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe. Alrighty, see ya!